to make my parents happy. Here, it's always the same subject. I studied so hard. I wanted to make my parents happy. This is the same subject, I. But if you want to use or you want to use two different subjects, the first subject is you, I, for example, and the second subject is my parents.
My.
Okay? So
Yeah.
here we are going to use just to say, sorry, excuse me again. Okay? I studied so hard.
Okay.
Well, so hard.
I studied
That
so hard
my parents
so that my.
There is so much noise.
would be happy. So is this clear? I studied so hard so that my parents would be happy.
Yes.
Okay? So
Yes.
here, imagine we are going to change this by so that
Yeah, that.
so that change it with in order to.
So that.
So can we change so that here with in so as to or in order to? No, we cannot. Okay? So when we have two different subjects, I, for example, and then the next subject is my parents, another different subject, we use so that, plus modal verb. Modal verb would.
What?
Okay? So people, students who are in the kitchen, all right, get out of the kitchen and please stop your noise. Come on, I can hear all your utensils from your kitchen. All right, please silence, some silence, please. All right, so I studied so hard so that my parents would be happy.
Would be happy.
Would is the modal verb, and so that because we have subject I and my parents is another subject, which is different. Okay, that's just for explanation. Now clear. I'm gonna clear all the drawings, no problem. So, pull share, new share, not just this one here. All right. Now, are you still following with me? All right.
I can't see anything, teacher, please.
You can see right now.
Yeah.
Now, yes, right?
No.
Not yet?
Not yet. Not yet.
Now?
No.
Oh, sorry. Wait. Okay.
No, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Good. So next
Switch
slide.
off your microphones.
Yes, please. Switch off, mute your microphones, please. Okay? That's much better. I can see your yeses in the chat box. No problem. Okay? No, good. Is it clearer?
Yes.
Good. All right. So the next one is QCM, what you guys like always, multiple option or multiple choice exercises. Okay. So we have cause and effect. We are going to use one of the connectives that we have in the list, A, B, C, or D. Okay, choose the correct completion. Number one, I was tired, comma, I went to bed. Why did we use since? For,
This is the code.
due to, because this is sentence. I was tired. Okay, that's a sentence. We need a connective like since or as or because. We don't have because in the list. There is some noise, please. Could you be quiet? Would you please be quiet? All right, so we have B, since I was tired, comma, I went to bed. The workers have gone on strike. All production has ceased. So what should we use here? Because, so that, now that, therefore.
Therefore.
Okay. The
Because we
workers have
have
gone
full
on
stop.
strike. Full stop. Therefore, comma, all production has ceased. Okay? Why? Because we have the first one is the cause, and the second one is the effect,
Effect.
and we have a linking word about the effect. Would you please switch off your phones? Are you connected through your phones or through your computers?
With our phones.
Our phones, okay. Great. So can you just, I don't know, I mean, well, you can't, of course, put them on airline mode.
Professor, sorry.
All right. Would you please keep quiet? I can hear a lot
Turn
of
off
noise.
all your lights.
Oh, come on. We've got a family here.
Please shut up, guys, please. Don't be selfish.
Well, you have to stop your noise, please.
The professor can turn off all them.
Sure, just try.
I don't know how to mute everybody.
Just try, you can.
Turn them all off.
والله صح حشومة شوف بالعربية تعرب تا ماشي مازال صغار كتعرفكم
Anyway, that's fine. Good. All right, so we're going to do this exercise about multiple choice. It's about connectives again, what we studied so far. So the first one is because of, okay? And since I was tired, I went to bed. Now, number one now. The workers have gone on strike. Therefore, all production has ceased. 2. A small fish needs camouflage to hide itself. Its enemies cannot find it. What should we use here? We're going to use so that. Why? Because we have modal verb cannot. A small fish needs camouflage to hide itself so that its enemies cannot find it. Okay? A small fish needs camouflage to hide itself so that its enemies cannot find it. Our apartment building has had 2 robberies in the last month. I'm going to put an extra lock on the door and install a telephone in my bedroom. So what should we use here? Is it so, since, now that, or so that? Okay, so our apartment building has had 2 robberies in the last month. So, okay, so it's result. As a result, okay, consequently, in consequence, in effect, thus, hence, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to put an extra lock on the door and install telephone in my bedroom. The Chippewas are native North Americans. Their language is one of the most complex in the world. It contains more than 6,000 verb forms. What should we use here? Consequently, so that, or for? The Chippewas are native North Americans. Their language is one of the most complex in the world. What?
So that
No. So we are going to use here for. So yeah, now maybe this is the first time. Maybe this is the first time you're gonna understand that we can use also for before a sentence. Okay, but we usually, and we can actually use before for preposition for before sentence. Now it becomes a conjunction. It's no more a preposition. So for why? Why is the language complex? Why is their language one of the most complex in the world? Because it contains the for it contains more than 6,000 verb forms. What do we have here? We have A, consequently, that's effect, no. So, no. So that, no. So for is for reason, use for. Okay? For it contains more than 6,000 verb forms. Now, 5. The bad grease stain on the carpet, we had to arrange furniture before the company arrived. So what should we use? Because, now that, for, because of. Just give it some time. You have to look at the bad grease stain on the carpet. There's no verb. We have a noun phrase. We have a noun phrase. Because we have a noun phrase, we need a
We
preposition.
use because of.
Because of.
Because of. Very good. Because of the bad grease stain on the carpet, comma, we had to rearrange the furniture before the company arrived. Then 6, the last one. The price of an airline ticket has gone down recently. The tickets cost less. More people are flying than before. So what should we use here? We'll just stop talking to give you 1 second to think about this, but let me just give you the answer, okay? Now, if you pay attention here, in number 6, and pay attention, we have 2 sentences, but in the second sentence, we have 2 clauses. So the price of airline tickets has gone down recently. That's one sentence. And then we have another sentence. In the second sentence, what do we have? We have the first clause and the second clause, which is the adverb clause and the main clause. So more people are flying than before. Why?
Consequently.
That's the problem. Now, this is a consequence for the first sentence. Oh my God.
Guys, please.
This is crazy. Okay, make sure that you're locked in a room by yourselves. Nobody can see you, nobody can visit you for at least a couple of hours. And plus, with this virus thing, it's much better to be alone all the time right now, okay?
Yes.
So this sentence here, we had the price of airline tickets has gone down recently. This is one sentence, all right? And this second sentence, all of it is just a consequence of this one. But we have to see or to check the relationship between this first clause and this second clause. So more people are flying than before. So we have because here. Because the tickets cost less, more people are flying than before. So now what we check is just the second sentence. We don't care about the first one. All right? We just care about the first clause and the second clause. Because the tickets cost less, more people are flying than before. Okay? I hope it's clear.
Yes.
Next one. Let's ask our teacher how to solve this problem. We can't agree on the answer. So what should we use here? Let's ask our teacher how to solve this problem. Because of we can't agree on the answer, consequently we can agree on the answer, so we can agree on the answer, or since we can agree on the answer. So we are going to use here since. Let's ask our teacher how to solve this problem. Since we can't agree on the answer. Because we don't have because. If we had because, we would use because. Okay. So what is the equivalent of because here? It's since. Since we cannot agree on the answer, let's ask our teacher to solve this problem. Okay. The fire raged out of control. I got bad that more firefighters it got bad that more firefighters had to be called in. So here we have the expression of so that or such that. Which one do you think? It got so bad. Why so? Because we have this adjective, bad. Before the adjective, we put so. Before a noun, we put such. Now we have so. It got so bad that more firefighters had to be called in. All right? Dolphins are sometimes caught and killed in commercial fishing nets. They often swim in schools with other fish, such as tuna. By the way, for those students who don't know school, a group of fish is called school. That's why fish is called the smartest animal, because a group of fish is called school. Good, school of fish. So dolphins are sometimes caught and killed in commercial fishing nets. Okay? They often swim in schools with other fish, such as tuna. What should we use here? Because,
Therefore,
or due to, or so, or therefore. Why are they caught and killed in commercial fishing nets? Because, so the answer is because. Because they often swim in schools with other fish, such as tuna. All right? We can finally afford to trade in the old car for a new one. I've gotten the raise I've been waiting for. Now, which one should we use here? We can finally afford to trade in the old, to trade in the old car for the new one, for a new one. I've gotten the raise I've been waiting for. Do you remember, for students who attended my classes before, of course, we talked about something, an expression that we use when we have time and reason at the same time. Time and cause. It's cause, but it's also time. We started from the past and finishes in the present, and there was a moment of waiting. Okay? So here we should use now that.
That.
Okay? Now that I've gotten the raise that I've been waiting for. 2 of the factories in our small town have closed. Unemployment is high. So this is a consequence of this one.
Consequently.
So consequently, 2 of the factories in our small town have closed. Consequently, unemployment is high. Okay? I had nothing for lunch but an apple. I ate dinner early. I had nothing for lunch but an apple. I ate dinner early. So,
Since.
is it for, since, due to, or therefore?
Since.
Since, good. So we're going to use since. Why? Because it plays the role of because, and it functions as because, and we have a sentence here. Because since I had nothing for lunch but an apple, I ate dinner early. I needed to finish the marathon race. I could prove that I had the strength and stamina to do it. I didn't care whether I won or not. So he was running a marathon. I needed to finish the marathon race so that. Why?
So
Because you
that.
have a modal verb here. So that I could finish, I could prove that I had the strength and stamina to do it. I didn't care whether I won or not. Great. I hope this is clear. Next, now we're going to move to contrast, and we still have like half an hour plus 10 minutes of questions, if I can, of course. All right. Contrast: despite, in spite of, versus even though, and although. So what do we have here? We have choose the correct completion. Even though or despite her doctor warned her, Carol has continued to smoke nearly 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Which one is correct?
even though,
Even though. Okay.
yeah,
Even though her doctor warned her. Why did you choose even though? Because, of course, we have her doctor warned her.
warned her.
Okay. So her doctor warned her means it's a sentence in which we have a verb. That's why we should use even though. Okay. So next one. Even though or despite her doctor's warning,
Despite,
Carol has continued to smoke nearly 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Despite, why? Because we have a noun here. Okay?
Yes.
We have a noun. Because we have a noun, we use despite or or if you want to take notes, in spite of course. Okay. Even though, despite the warnings her doctor gave her, Carol continues to smoke. What should we use
Even.
here? The warning. The doctor.
Despite.
Despite.
Okay. So we're going to use despite. Very nice. Good. Cool. Because we have the warnings is a noun. But why do we have a verb here, gave? What does this verb mean? So this is what I want you to understand, because we studied this, if you remember. Her doctor gave her is just an adjective clause that modifies the word. Oh, somebody's mom is yelling at him or her. Okay. It's really, you have to get rid of your families, you know, you have to get rid of your babies if you want to attend this class. Okay, next time. Okay. Despite her doctor's warnings, sorry, this one. Despite the warnings her doctor gave her. So even if we have a verb here, gave her, the whole clause here, her doctor gave her, just modifies the warnings. What is more important here is the warnings, okay? Her doctor, we can also put which here. The warnings which her doctor gave her, if you remember. So it's an adjective clause that modifies the noun warnings, because we have a noun. The noun is stronger. Then we have despite.
Every time we have a noun, we use despite.
Yes, but I was just explaining the doctor gave. We have a verb. And some of the students might think or might say, but you told us we have a verb, it's a clause. Well, this clause is just an adjective clause. It's not a noun clause. It just modifies this warning here. Okay? Next one. Even though, despite the fact that her doctor warned her of dangers to her health, Carol continues.
Even though.
To use despite. Why again? Because the fact.
Yes,
The fact is a
Yes.
noun, and that her doctor warned her is just an adjective clause that modifies the fact that. Okay? Even though, despite, she has been warned about the dangers of smoking by her doctor. Now we have she.
Even though.
Rashid Safi requested not controlling their content. Oh, not yet, not yet. Okay, so despite, even though, or despite, she has been. We have she has been warned. We have subject, verb, and then other things here. Okay, so because we have subject and verb, we need
Even though.
even though. Even though she has been warned about danger of smoke, we cannot say despite she has been. No. Okay, despite the warnings, despite the fact that her doctor warned, despite her doctor's warnings, but even though she has been warned about that. Okay, I hope this is clear. Although, in spite of, so an approaching storm, the two climbers continued their trek up the mountain. Although, in spite of an approaching storm, the two climbers continued to their trek up the mountain. Is it in spite of or although?
In
We have
spite of.
here storm. Storm is a noun. And approach is just an adjective. Okay, because we have a noun phrase, adjective plus noun, we're going to use in spite of. Okay, good. Although, in spite of, a storm was approaching. What do we have here? A storm was approaching. We have subject and verb.
Subject verb.
Because of subject verb, of course, we need although.
Although.
All right. Although a storm was approaching, the two climbers continued their trek. Okay.
Yeah.
Next one. Although, or in spite of, there was an approaching storm. There was. Again, subject verb. Because of subject verb, we are going to use although. Although there was an approaching storm, comma, the two climbers continued up the mountain. Although, in spite of the storm that was approaching. Now, what do we have here? The storm. It's a noun.
A noun.
It's a noun. That was approaching is just an adjective clause, if you remember. Adjective clause that modifies the storm.
The noun.
Yes, it modifies the noun storm. So, in spite of the storm, why? Because this very strong, this noun here is very strong, and that was approaching the mountain area is just a modifier, okay, that modifies the storm, comma, the two climbers continued their trek. Although in spite of the fact that, again, the fact, a noun, because we have a noun, of course we are going to use in spite of. In spite of the fact that the storm was approaching, the mountain two climbers continued their trek. Very nice, good, cool. Now, we have some direct contrast again. Of course, we have seen this before, but there's no harm having a look at this again, okay? While, whereas, on the other hand, however. They all express contrast here, the connectives here. Give me 1 second, just 1 second. Wow.
والله يرحم لكم الوالدين نطفيو دوك الميكروفون راه ما كنسمعوش والو الله يرحم الوالدين
turn them out. غير إلا بغيتو تسولو صافي ما تحلوهمش ديما.
الأغلبية شادين غير تحمل.
ما تحلوش اصلا اللي بغى يجاوب باي تكستين يكتب الجواب ديالو حنا بغينا نسمعوا البروف بوحدهم بغينا نسمعوا
ودابا المشكله دابا المشكله سكينه كتقول لكم سدوا المايك وهي ديجا حله
سكينه ما كتسدش المايك بالمره
سكينه راه شاد الزكار من الاخر
عافاكم الله يعطيكم
اللي بغى يحلو غير باش
والجواب الله يعطيكم الصحه
راه سديتو دابا سديتو
يرحم الوالدين
يلا سدوه كلكم دابا وخليونا نكملوا.
يا
اودي قناه غينا كنسلي يا صاحبي البروف ما سيتيني قناه غينا
هاتي تغزل انت سنا ايوب ايوب الناس صاحبات قناه راه
عبد الكبير وسعيد وايوب باقيين كيتفلاو وما سدوش المايك.
عبد الكبير please turn off your mic.
Shut the hell up.
Hi, back.
Yes.
Okay, so it's good. So it's really good that everybody's muting their microphones. It's very nice. So we stopped at this slide about direct contrast. Okay, if you have any questions, I can give you the floor for questions. Okay, just turn off your mics. And I don't want to hear noise from your family, your babies, your kids, your moms and dads. Okay, stay blessed, of course, and stay home. But if you can just like be quiet for a couple of hours until we finish this, and then because I want you to benefit as much as possible. We are in a crisis, of course, not being able to meet in classrooms right now. So I think this is one of the best platforms, one of the best ways to overcome this crisis, at least to continue our classes. So we seize the chance, of course, we want to seize the chance and at least be attentive and prudent and careful for the sake of everybody, of course, not just me, okay? Great, so it would be great if you turn off your mics and just listen to me. At the end, I can give you the floor for comments and questions. Great, so we have this slide of direct contrast, about direct contrasts, whereas on the other hand, however. So if we connect the given ideas using the words in parentheses, add commas, periods, semicolons, and capital letters as necessary. For example, there's always an example in your books. While red is bright and lively, gray is dull color. Red is bright and lively, comma, while gray is dull color. Or while red is bright and lively, comma, gray is a dull color. Okay? So we are going to use, but we're going to use here in number 2, on the other hand. Jane is insecure and unsure of herself, and her sister is full of self-confidence. We are going to connect or combine these two sentences by using on the other hand. Very simply, okay? So when we use on the other hand, it means that you have already given a sentence that is positive, and then well, it could be positive or negative, and then the contrast later, okay? So we might say here, Jane is insecure and unsure of herself, okay? Full stop or semicolon. On the other hand, comma, her sister is full of self-confidence, all right? So Jane is insecure and unsure of herself, comma, on the other, semicolon, sorry. On the other hand, comma, her sister is full of self-confidence, okay? While a rock is heavy, a rock is heavy, a feather is light. So we can say, while a rock is heavy, comma, a feather is light, okay? Or a rock is heavy while a feather is light. Okay, I think we spoke about a few examples last time in class. Whereas some children are unruly, others are quiet and obedient. Some children are unruly while others are quiet and obedient. Or whereas some children are unruly, comma, others are quiet and obedient. So this is what we call direct contrast, but you have to be careful about comma, all right? So if you start, for example, with whereas some children are unruly, comma, others are quiet and obedient. If you put whereas in the middle, it's fine. If you put comma, it's okay, it's acceptable. But if you don't put it, if you forgot it, it's fine, it's still okay. So, but we shouldn't forget about the capital letter in some. Some children are unruly, whereas, or while, as you like, whereas others are quiet and obedient, okay? Then, on the other hand, again, language and literature classes are easy and enjoyable for Alex. Math and science courses are difficult for him. This exercise, the purpose of this exercise actually is just to find, because there's no full stop. They want you to find what is the first sentence, where's the second sentence, where's the first clause, and where's the second clause. Now, where does it stop, this one? Language and literature classes are easy and enjoyable for Alex. Then, that's one. Math and science courses are difficult for him. So we're going to say language with a capital L, language and literature classes are easy and enjoyable for Alex, full stop or semicolon. On the other hand, comma, math and science courses are difficult for him. Math and science courses are difficult for him. The last one, however, strikes can bring improvements in wages and working conditions. Strikes can also cause loss of jobs and bankruptcy. So strikes have positives and negatives. That's why we have contrast here, okay? So we can say strikes can bring improvements in wages and working conditions, full stop. However, comma, strikes can also cause loss of jobs and bankruptcy, or just change strikes with they. Of course, we're going to use they. However, they can also cause loss of jobs and bankruptcy. Okay? So, however, is for contrast. Most of the time is used in the middle. All right? It's used in the middle because we give the first positive or negative, and then however, and then you give the opposite or the contrasted section. So strikes can bring, don't forget capital S, strikes can bring improvements in wages and working conditions, full stop. However, capital H, however, comma, they can also cause loss of jobs and bankruptcy. Okay, so if we use however at the beginning, it expresses another thing. We're gonna see that later. Okay, great. I hope this is clear. So let me just have, we can put comma before however. Yes, we can put comma before however. Okay, if you have more questions, just note them, jot them down. At the end, we're gonna you can ask me those questions. All right, we can go back all the time to the slides and so on and so forth. Okay, so the next slides. Well, now we have to choose from the list the best connective, best linking word. Okay, we have to choose it from the list. We have to remember, and which one are we going to use, of course. So we have the list number one is because, since, now that, therefore, then because of, due to, even though, although, while, whereas, nevertheless, however, on the other hand, in spite of, despite. So number one is given to you as an example, always. It was still hot in the room, even though, although I had turned on the air conditioner. It was still hot in the room, even though, although I turned on the air conditioner. This is contrast, because it's hot, he turned on air conditioner, but it's still hot, okay? Even though, although, and I had turned on the air conditioner. We have a sentence again here. We have a verb, okay? Several people in the crowd became ill and fainted due to, because of, the extreme heat. Several people in the crowd became ill and fainted because of, or due to, extreme heat. Why did we use due to, because of? Because we have extreme heat. So extreme heat is a noun phrase, okay? With a noun, heat, and extreme as an adjective, and of course the as an article. So we need a preposition here, which is of or to, okay? Now, it's your turn, my turn actually today. The gardener trimmed the branches on the cherry tree. I asked him not to. I asked him not to. The gardener trimmed the branches. He cut off the branches on the cherry tree. The cherry tree. I asked him not to do that. So there is contrast. So which one should we use here? We are going to use although, or even though, or even if. Okay? Even if, although, though, even though, although, even if. The gardener trimmed the branches on the cherry tree, even though I asked him not to. Even if I asked him not to. Even though I asked him not to. I hope it's clearer. The meat of the puffer fish can cause paralysis or even death if it is improperly prepared. The meat of the puffer fish can cause paralysis or even death if it is improperly prepared. It remains a delicacy in Japan for brave dinners. What should we use here? So imagine we have the meat of the puffer fish can cause paralysis or even death if it is improperly prepared. And we have quite a long sentence with a full stop that is negative. But here we have it remains a delicacy. Delicacy means something which is really important, something which is very significant in the menu, on the menu of the Japanese in Japan. So it remains a delicacy in Japan for brave dinners. So when we have a negative and positive, we can use however, okay? But we can also use nevertheless, okay, which is here, nevertheless, or however, okay? So if you choose or you ask me which one is better, I think nevertheless is much better because the first sentence, it is long, quite long sentence, all right? So nevertheless is used when you have contrast, but when you have like different points that are negative, and you say, nevertheless, in spite of all of that, you told me this and this and this and this, but in spite of all of that, I still like the puffer fish. Okay, so the meat of the puffer fish can cause paralysis or even death. This is another point. It is improperly prepared. However, that's good, no problem, but nevertheless is much better. Nevertheless remains a delicacy in Japan for brave diners. Great. So next one, 5. Everyone disagreed with him. Brian went ahead with his original plan for a company. Even everyone disagreed with him. Brian went ahead with his original plan for the company. Should we use although, even though, or despite, or in spite of? Which one here in the list? Okay, we're going to use well, just even though, although. Okay, so even though everyone disagreed with him, although everyone disagreed with him, even if everyone disagreed with him, that's good. Brian went ahead for his plans. Very nice, good. So next slide. Most adults carry around certain attitudes and prejudices about the world around them. Most children enter new situations without such preconceived notions. Okay, so we can use here, most adults carry around certain attitudes and prejudices about the world around them. Most children, however, nevertheless. Okay, so this nevertheless, however, in the middle, and they have comma, some punctuation here, comma, and another comma here. Okay, so however is correct, nevertheless is correct, or on the other hand. Okay, do we have on the other hand in the list? Let's see. Yes, on the other hand, we have it here. On the other hand is also correct. Okay, so most children, however, enter new situations, or on the other hand, because we talk about. So I think on the other hand is much better. Why? Because we have most adults here and most children here. So we're talking about one hand adults, on the other hand children. All right, but the use of however or nevertheless is not incorrect. Of course, it remains a correct option. Okay, they often have to close all of the ski areas, in the mountains, severe weather conditions and avalanche danger. They often have to close all of the ski areas in the mountains, severe weather conditions and avalanche danger. Danger, conditions, just noun, because you have a noun, we're going to use, okay, because of, what is because of, or due to, because of or due to. Okay, great, due to or because of. Okay, great. Next one. So we have paper was first developed by the ancient Chinese. Its English name comes from the word papyrus. Papyrus, the name of an Egyptian water planet. Okay, so even though, although, paper was first developed by ancient Chinese, its English name comes from the word papyrus, the name of Egyptian water plants. Okay, although, even though. So now my just one point I want to raise here, or just explain again, is that even if we have however, nevertheless, despite of, they also explain or they express contrast, we should use only although, even though, even if, and though. Though, just though is also correct. Okay, so they express all contrast, but the use is totally different depending on the position of the linking word or connective in the sentence. Okay, so you have to be careful about that. The supervisor must know that everyone in the department is doing all responsibility for error will fall on her shoulders. So what do you think we're going to use here? Supervisor must know where everyone in the department is doing all responsibility for error will fall on her shoulder. Okay, so we go back to the list. So what do we have here? Is it in spite of, despite, or because of, due to, because, since? What do we have? What is the relationship between the two sentences here? Okay, the supervisor must know what everyone in the department is doing. Is it although all responsibility for it will fall on her shoulders, or because all responsibility for error will fall on her shoulders, or what? What do you think? Okay, let me see the chat again. Because, since, even if, because of. Because. Well, well, there is a reason, of course, the effect, cause and effect. Supervisor must know what everyone in the department is doing. He has to know that, okay? Why? Because the responsibility for errors will fall on the shoulders of the supervisor, okay? So it's not because of, no, because all the responsibility for errors will fall. We have a verb here, we have subject, verb. So it's not due to or because of, just because. Or since, or as, because, since, all of them are correct. But what do we have in the list? We have just because and since, because and since, all right? So because all responsibility for error will fall on her shoulders. Now, aspirin is relatively safe for most adults. It should be administered very carefully to children, if at all. It can be dangerous to children's health, okay? So we're going to use here although aspirin, or even if aspirin, or though aspirin is relatively safe for most adults, it should be administered very carefully to children. Turn off your microphones again, please. Turn off your microphones. The peanut is used today to make everything from cosmetics to explosives. The peanut is used today to make everything from cosmetics to explosives. The pioneer and scientific work of George Washington Carver in the 1910s and 1920s. What are we going to use here? What do you think we can use here, or should use here? Despite, in spite of. Why in spite of, despite? Okay, you don't need to switch on your microphones, just listen, okay? That's fine. Good. So the peanut is used today to make everything from cosmetics to explosive, okay? If you use despite, it doesn't make any sense here. Despite the pioneering scientific work of George Washington Carver in the 1910s and 20s. Okay, so we can use here reason again. Okay, sorry, excuse me. We can use reason and cause. Okay, so we are going to use due to or because of. And due to or because of, we have here the pioneering scientific work of George Washington Carver in the 1910s and 20s. So it's a whole sentence, like quite a long sentence here, but it's a group of words. There's no verb. The pioneer scientific work of George Washington Carver in line. There's no verb. It's just what is more important here is the work, okay? Because of the work of George Washington Carver, because of or due to. Good. In ancient China, yellow was considered to be an imperial color, okay? Only the emperor was allowed to wear it. No one else could have yellow clothing of any kind. In ancient China, yellow was considered to be imperial color, okay? So what should we use here? Only the emperor was allowed to wear it, okay? No one else could have yellow of any kind. What do you think here? Should we use?
سوداء.
Okay, what do you think we can use here? Sometimes like just drop some looks at your chat box that I can see, but no, I can do all of that every once in a while. Okay, although, therefore, why although actually? So look, get back to the list. What do we have in the list? So we have because, since, now that, therefore, because of, due to, even though, although. So what is the relationship between the first sentence and the second sentence? Okay, before you put any linking word or connective, you have to understand the relationship between the two. So what do we have here? We have in ancient China, yellow was considered to be an imperial color. Okay, so the yellow color is imperial. Only the emperor. Okay, so we don't have contrast here. It just, we have some explanation. It just explains, all right? Or it gives us an effect about the fact that yellow was considered to be an imperial color. So what happened? So what happened? So means it's about the effect, okay? So consequently, or therefore, what do we have in the list? Okay, therefore, we have therefore here, okay? Therefore is consequently, or the consequence, okay? Therefore, only the emperor was allowed to wear it. No one else could have yellow clothing of any kind, okay? So this is kind of effect or result. Why was he allowed, or why was the emperor the only person to wear yellow color? Because it was considered to be imperial color. Okay, good. So the abacus had been in use in Asia since ancient times. Many in the Western world credit a 19-year-old Blaise Pascal, a Frenchman, with inventing first calculating machine in 1642. So what do you think? What is the relationship between this and this again? Okay, let me have again your chats. Should use therefore, consequently, due to. Okay, so what is the relationship between the first sentence and second sentence here? Check and have it for a sec. I mean, look at it. Have a look at it. That. Okay, so the abacus had been in use in Asia since ancient times, comma, many in the Western world credited the 19-year-old Blaise Pascal, Frenchman, with inventing the first calculating machine in 16. Now here we have some contrast here. Okay, so what is the contrast? The contrast is that this abacus had been in use in Asia since ancient times. It was working, but the credit or the homage, what the people recognized and credited was this guy, the Western Blaise Pascal. Okay, he was credited. So we have some contrast here, and we can say, although the abacus had been in use, even though, even if, or just though. Okay, the ones we have in the list, of course. Okay, great. Otherwise is also used to express contrast. Okay, so we're almost there. We have this slide and then a few questions, and that's it. Okay, otherwise. So what directions make two sentences show relationship between them by using otherwise. In the first sentence, use a modal, auxiliary, or phrase modal. Should, had, better, have, to, or must, etc. Example, if you don't eat less and get more exercise, comma, you won't lose weight. So my very simple question is, what type of conditional do we have here? If you don't eat less and get more exercise, you won't lose weight. So we have conditional type 1, because we have simple present and simple future in negative form. Negative, negative. Good. Now we are going to change this sentence by using your own style and by using otherwise. Okay, which means that in order we can express the sentence by using different expressions, even purpose, in order so as to lose weight. You have to eat less and get more exercise. So you should, it's a piece of advice, okay? You should, had better, have to, must, okay? Eat less and get more exercise. Full stop. Otherwise. So otherwise give you the effects or the opposite effect. Okay? So otherwise expresses some sort of opposite effect. Otherwise you won't lose weight. You should eat less and get more exercise, comma, full stop. Otherwise, comma, you won't lose weight. Okay? Another example. The children can watch TV tonight only if they finish all of their chores. Okay? The children had better, well, because we can watch only if they finish. You remember only if, which means they must do something. It's a condition, all right? Specific, very specific condition. The children have to finish all of their work, all of their chores, sorry, full stop. Otherwise, they cannot watch TV tonight. Okay? Which means they cannot watch TV unless. You see, so you can use unless, only if, otherwise, just conditional if. You can all use these expressions. What I want you to do later is just take one sentence and that has cause and effect or condition and use different linking words with the same sentence. Okay? Now, what should we use here to, we want to use otherwise in this sentence. Number 3, unless you speak up now, the boss will go ahead without knowing that you don't agree. Okay? Which means that you are going to say, for example, you must speak up now, full stop. Otherwise, the boss will go ahead without knowing that you don't agree. Okay? You should speak up now. Otherwise, the boss will go ahead without knowing that you don't agree. Okay, next one, 4. If you don't stop at the store on your way home from work, we won't have anything to eat for dinner tonight. Okay, so it's conditional again. But we're going to do it by using otherwise and say, you have to stop. You must stop. Or you'd better stop. You should stop at the store on your way home from work. Full stop. Otherwise, capital O. Otherwise, comma, we won't have anything to eat for dinner tonight. Okay? Unless you think it through very carefully, you won't come up with the right answer. So you must think it through very carefully. You have to think it through very carefully. You'd better think it through very carefully. Or you should think it through very carefully. Full stop. Otherwise, comma, you won't come up with the right answer. If we don't catch any fish this morning, we're going to have beans for dinner again. Let me do it with unless. Unless we catch. If we don't means unless we do. Unless we catch any fish this morning, comma, we're going to have beans for dinner again. But we want otherwise. We have to catch. We must. It's a must. If we don't, then what happens? We'll have beans for dinner. Which is good. Beans are good. Okay? So we have to catch any fish this morning. We have to catch fish, not any fish. Okay? So if we don't catch any fish now, we have to catch some fish. We have to catch some fish because any goes with questions and negative form, negation. Okay? So we have to catch some fish this morning. Full stop. Otherwise, comma, we're going to have beans for dinner again. Okay? I hope this is clear. Now, condition if and unless. We talked about this before in class, okay? In class before. So I don't think it's a serious problem. Complete the sentences with inappropriate form of verb pass. Kate will graduate if he passes all of his courses. Sam won't graduate if he doesn't pass all of his courses. All right? So we're going to use now negative or affirmative. Complete the sentence with appropriate form of the verb pass. Just the same verb pass, but is it in negative form or
دابا نقص شوية.
in affirmative form? It's great that you're asking your dad to lower the volume down. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so Ed won't graduate unless he passes all of his courses or he doesn't pass all of his courses. Of course, he passes. Ed won't graduate unless he passes all of his courses. Okay? Sue will graduate only if she passes all of her courses. Jessica will graduate even if she doesn't pass all of her courses. We have contrast. Alex won't graduate even if he passes all of his courses. Jennifer will graduate unless she passes, because we have unless affirmative, passes all of her courses. Amy won't graduate in the event that she passes or she doesn't pass here. Amy won't graduate in the event that she doesn't pass all of her courses. Not passes here. She doesn't pass all of her courses. I think we're going to go back to this exercise in your questions. Jerry, like courses, otherwise he won't graduate. Now look at this otherwise here. So what should we use here? A modal verb, okay? Jerry has to pass. Jerry must pass. Jerry should pass, but has to is the best one. Has to pass all of his courses, otherwise he won't graduate. Caroline, whatever, must pass all of her courses or else. So or else just is like otherwise, okay? Or else is just like otherwise. We have comma here and we have full stop here, capital O and comma, but here we have comma or else and then the next sentence, okay? So she has to pass all of her courses or else she won't graduate, very simply, okay? So for your more information, I want you to go back to your books. It's test A on page 219, and please do that, okay? So we are still left with 5 minutes before the end of the course, but I would like to give you like 10 minutes of questions and comments. And you can switch on your microphones if you want to speak, but only the person who wants to speak, okay? Please, only the person who wants to have a question, I mean, those who have questions or comments, you switch on your microphones, but one by one, okay? So I want to go back to the slides. If you need me to go back to slides, if you don't need me to go back to the slides, I can just use my whiteboard here and explain more. But we have only 10 minutes from now to get your questions, okay? So do you have any questions?
Please, sir.
Yes, who's speaking here?
Sir, can I ask?
Yes, please. Who's speaking? Can I know?
Najat.
Najat, I'm Zlok.
Yeah, I'm Zlok.
I'm Zlok. Okay.
Okay. I was just wondering what does Hans express?
Hence.
Yeah.
Hence expresses the result, effect.
Okay.
Okay? Like
Okay,
this. Like this, like THUS as well. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Please, teacher.
Yes, who's this?
Sukaina Ahtar.
Sukaina.
Yes.
Okay, yes, Sukaina.
Do we have, please, this exercise in the handout?
Yes. Which exercise? The page 219? Which exercise you're talking about? I'm talking about.
Of contrast.
Yeah. Connectives. This chapter is connectives. You have it in your books, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
Sir, can I ask about the difference between because and because of?
Who's this?
Lamia.
Lamia, shukri. Okay. Do you want me to go back all the way to the first slide?
Okay.
Did you come late? Did you come late?
Yes.
I know. Yeah, so look at this slide here. Can you check the slide? Can you see the slide?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So look at this. We delayed our trip because of the bad weather. We have here, weather is a noun, okay?
Okay.
Bad is an adjective, but weather is a noun. That's why we have because of, okay? We can change this because of with due to the bad weather, okay? However, but when we have a sentence like this, she had been crying, we use because she had been crying, which means that she had been crying here is a sentence in which we have subject and verb. If we have a sentence, we use because or since or as, okay? But when we have a noun, we use because of or due to. So keep in mind preposition, okay? That's what you should keep in mind. All right?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Teacher,
Yes, please.
I want to ask you what is the difference between passes and doesn't passes?
Who's speaking?
Karima.
Karima. What is the difference between?
Passes and doesn't passes.
Oh, this the last slide. The last slide. So the difference here is not between pass and doesn't pass.
Yes.
You have to understand here. Just please switch off your microphones. If the question is over, please switch off your microphones. Okay. So what do we have here? You have to be careful about if and unless, because unless very simply means if not. Okay. So look at this one here. Ed won't graduate unless he. So because we have the won't graduate unless he, we need passes here. He, because he pass plus es, passes. Why? Because not is here. If we don't want to use affirmative, we can use if. So if he doesn't pass, he won't graduate. But because we don't have we have won't here and we don't have if, we have unless, we need to use the affirmative one. If we have if, we use the negative. For example, Sam won't graduate, look at this one, won't graduate if he doesn't pass all of his courses. All right? But Kate will graduate, look at this, no negative, will graduate if he passes all of his courses. Okay, so you have to be careful about if and unless, because unless means very simple. Unless is
Unless means if not.
if not. That's it. Okay, so you have to be careful about the negation or negative form. All right. So, but what you need to bear in mind is that we're talking about contrast that can be expressed by if, unless, otherwise, or else. They all can be used in the same sentence, but you have to be careful what you use. Okay. So the question, what's the difference between pass and doesn't pass? You have to understand the difference between unless and if. That's it. If you understand that, then you might understand the contrast. Okay, and how to use contrast in those using those expressions. Okay. So yeah, let me just read this chat here. This course is limited to 100 people, so I have been only here for past 30 minutes. I hope you're recording so you could upload it later on your Facebook so others can watch it. Yes, I'm doing that. I'm actually recording this. Well, if things happened well, it's recorded. It's been recorded. Okay. Okay, good. So do you have any question?
Yes, sir. May I ask a question, please?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, first question. For the quantifiers, do we always use so for all the
Yes.
quantifiers?
Yes.
Yes,
No, listen.
and the second question, can you go back to slide number 18, please?
This one?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So for should, had better, have, and must, consider them all the same when we use otherwise. Is that correct?
That's a good question. What is the point? The point is that we must use a modal verb, okay? But you pay attention to the degree of the meaning. If it's a must or something obligatory, then we use obligation. If it is just like an advice, otherwise you won't get what you want. For example, you just use should or better, right? So, but the point is in grammar, but to use otherwise, we need a modal verb. And this modal verb could be a modal verb of obligation, must have to, or modal verb of advice. Okay? So if you go back to unless you think it's example 5, for example, okay? Unless you think it through very carefully, you won't come up with the right answer. So I think this is just an advice here. You should think it very carefully, full stop. Otherwise, you won't come up with the right answer. But if something really urgent, an obligation, for example, let's say, I don't know. For example, unless you do the homework, you won't get the grade. All right. For example, this is an obligation, so you must do your homework. Full stop. Otherwise, you won't get a good grade. For example. Okay.
Yes,
so
okay.
it could be must, have to, or should, better, depending on the degree of or the function, what function we have in the sentence. However, a modal verb must be there if you want to use or if you want to use otherwise, comma, and then the effect. Okay?
Okay, thank you, teacher.
You're welcome.
Sir, can I ask?
Yes, please.
I was just wondering if this course is available in the handout.
In the handouts, which handouts?
Handout of grammar.
The book.
Yeah.
The book that you have. Yes, you have Connectives. You have Connectives in it's chapter 8, I think. Chapter 18, I guess.